There are unforgettable days, moments that are printed in memory as if they were a tattoo on the heart, and people who leave without deserve it. With these words, we start our journey in one of the greatest films made by the cinema, The Green Mile, the movie that you will not come out as it entered. Memories come back years after the story begins in the elderly caring house, where an old man named Paul Edgecomb, watching an old movie on TV, sits, but he cannot focus. There is something that ravages his mind, an old memory that belongs to him, a memory that he could not forget despite the passage of years. It goes outside the house, walking between the trees until it reaches a small hut, and there, tears overcome. What makes an old man crying this way? What story did you carry with him throughout these years? Well, let's go back until 1935, when Paul was a young man working as a jailer in the Green Tendency, the wing of the death sentenced in Cold Mountain Prison. The arrival of the good giant, John Coffey, the head of the guards in the death pavilion, was a man responsible for the leadership of the prisoners on their last journey through the corridor covered with a green rug, which was called Green Mile. Many men saw this wing, most of them are real criminals, but one day a man who was not like anyone else arrived. John Coffey, a huge body, a giant of a monster size but with eyes bearing good and sadness that is not worthy of a criminal. He was accused of a heinous crime, brutally killed two young girls. The police found him at the site of the crime, carrying their bodies, crying with heartburn as if he had lost what he had. For the law it was clear, but Paul felt that something wrong. Secrets reveal, and the first miracle with the passage of days, Paul began to notice that John is different from any other prisoner. He was not afraid, he was not violent, but was cute in a strange way. He was afraid of darkness, sleeping sometimes, crying, as if he were a child stuck in a giant body. But what happened later changed everything. Paul was suffering from a painful disease in the urinary tract, an unbearable pain, which made him wrinkle every night until John came, extending his hand and putting it on his body. Then suddenly, the pain disappeared, as if the disease was pulled from inside to John's body, who swallowed him as if he was taking sin inside him, then pronounced it out in the form of black ashes. Paul stood stunned. What is happening here? Is this man an angel in the form of a person? Or is there a secret that no one understands? Percy Whitten, the evil wearing the uniform of the law. But John was not alone in this prison. Another person was, a man who should not have been in responsibility, but he was because of his influence. Percy Whitten, a young jailer, arrogant and compassionate. He did not see in the prisoners human beings, but he treated them as if they were broken dolls enjoying her torture. His next goal was the old prisoner, Edward Dell, the man who formed a friendship with a small mouse called Mr. Gings. A mouse was not just an animal, but rather a true companion for him. But Percy, as usual, could not see something beautiful without trying to break it. When it was time to execute Dell, Percy decided to make it an unforgettable nightmare. The sponge that was placed on the head of the prisoner was not wet to deliver electricity, which made him burn alive in a screaming that would not be erased from the memory of Paul, nor from the memory of John, who sat in his cell crying as if Dell's spirit was asking him to survive. The real killer, the truth that came late, but the truth that no one knew, is that John was not the killer of the two girls, but rather another person, a more evil person, even Percy. There was a brutal killer named William Inerton, a criminal without mercy. He was the one who killed the two girls, and he left John to condemn his guilt. When John touched Paul's hand, he conveyed the entire scene to him. He saw the truth, made him see how justice was extinguished and how innocence was sentenced to death unjustly. But what can Paul do? How can he stop something he has already written? The last minute, goodbye John Coffey, knew that even if he tried to save him, no one would believe him. He knew that the law did not look beyond material evidence, and that the justice he wished is not present here. The moment that Paul did not wish to live. John placed on the electric chair, the place where real criminals were executed, but it was not among them. Paul stood in front of him, trying to hold himself, but John, with his childish smile, told him something that he would never forget. I am tired, boss. Tired of the pain that he saw every day. Tired of the evil of people. The key is the key, and a light was extinguished, which should not have been extinguished. Conclusion. Was it worth? Paul returned with his memory to the Green Mile is not just a movie. It is a harsh lesson about life, about injustice, about good being punished, and about evil living free. It is a film that makes you wonder how many innocent people have been executed in this world while murderers walked free.